Bread, good. Fire, bad. Cereal, milk, green. Short box, inane. Ah!
Welcome back to a well-balanced part of a YouTube marathon, the short box of the inane. I'm your host, the surprise at the bottom of the box, the Last Angry Ghoulie. And today's episode features a comic you probably haven't heard of from a publisher you probably don't know, and featuring characters that you definitely grew up with. Although hopefully once in a while your mom made you some scrambled eggs or gave you some waffles. This is Cereal. Cereal is published by Ahoy Comics, a relatively new publisher that started on the independent scene in 2018, already attracting such talent as Mark Waid, Gail Simone, and Mark Russell. Russell, one of the best humor writers and satirists working in comics, and trust me, that's a small category, wrote several serialized stories. Cereal is a trade paperback collection of those specific stories, a reimagining of several cereal breakfast mascots as contemporary horror icons. The art is provided by Peter Snejberg, best known for his work on James Robinson's Starman comic book. The first chapter is Dark Chocolate. In the land of Chocolavania, having been turned into a vampire, the Marquis de Coco tries to make his life work alongside his still human wife. He's a vampire. She is a housewife. Can they make their marriage work? It's Honey, I'm horror incarnate and I must feast upon your blood. Premiering this Christmas on Disney+. This means opening his doors to the local gentry and hosting daily breakfast get-togethers. They're all here. The Dewberry family, Captain something or other, even the Marquis' old rival, Duke L'Orange, who is smitten with the Marquis' wife. The Duke comments on how a local vampire is preying on robbers and thieves, but when he's caught, it will be the bonfire for him. A penalty the Marquis enacted, but after a vampiric stable boy turned him, he must now avoid his own fiery demise. To keep the illusion of his humanity going, he must even endure the agony of sunlight. His wife excuses herself, followed by the Duke. He offers to take her away, hinting he knows the Marquis' secret, and if she does not leave with him, he will expose the Marquis. Back in the dining room, the Marquis explains his reason for hosting breakfasts. Dinner would attract ne'er-do-wells more interested in wine than friendship. Only a true friend would make the pre-dawn journey for a balanced breakfast. Finally, only the Duke remains, dragging out the Marquis' agony until the Lady Coco signals her surrender. Weakened and returned to his crypt, his wife pleads that there is no other way forward. He weeps for what he has lost as she enters the Duke's carriage in the dark of night. He offers her a drink, but she thirsts for something more nourishing. He has now damned his wife, and they will endure this agony for eternity, together. Eternal agony together? Now that's what I call marriage! I'm all alone. Oh, but you get the idea. Each chapter of Cereal is going to be a short, self-contained story leading into the next chapter and playing into the greater narrative of the whole. And it's going to feature characters like the Marquis, who you can count on having seen before, like maybe on a box of Chocula. Chapter 2 is the tragic tale of Franken-berry. A man without a home is nothing, and to protect his home and the people who live on it, he must seek allies against the devious General Mills, who is waging a war that will soon swallow up the entire kingdom. He sets sail for the island home of the leprechauns to enlist their king's aid, but the devious Captain Crackle betrays him to the general. In turn, Crackle is made lord of Cherry's lands. In Mill's dungeons, we see terrible things. An almost vulture-like toucan bird. A self-loathing werewolf. Well, okay, just those two awful things, but they're still terrible. The general mocks the brute. This creature may hate what it does, but it will never stop itself from unleashing violence and consuming all the produce it can find. But, at least here with the general, it has a home. Lord Franken-berry will never serve the general as long as he lives. Yeah, probably. His corpse is turned over to the necromantic cookie wizard. But since it's easier to reanimate parts instead of the whole, this involves a whole lot of hacking. He escapes, but his ravaged visage terrifies a local farmer's daughter, and with his new super strength out of control, he accidentally kills her. From there, the people of his own land no longer recognize him and pursue him with deadly intent. There's now only one place he can go. Back to the general, a broken monster with no home. Chapter 3. The Leprechaun King. A leprechaun is selling the crown of the Four Wisdoms to Captain, now Lord, Crackle.
The pink hearts, yellow moons, blue diamonds, and green clovers represent courage, wealth, magic, and a bountiful harvest. With this crown, alleged to have power over death itself, the captain will further ingratiate himself to General Post.
Post? It was General Mills in the previous chapter. Who would object to calling the bad guy General Mills? Who wouldn't want a story full of people calling General Mills evil? Of course, there's only one company. Kellogg's.
When Krakow received the Cherry Lands, he killed Franken's brother Bo in a failed assassination attempt. The leprechauns believed their island was safe from invasion due to their magic, but Post's army destroyed everything. Krakow's guest killed the king, because the king forsook the four wisdoms, and this led to his people's downfall. The crown does resurrect the dead, but in a bad way, as we see the leprechaun dug up Bo's body. Now a blue ghost, he stabs the captain. So now the leprechaun, actually the king who failed his people, will head to Fortress Honeycomb and exact a hollow revenge on the general. Chapter 4. To Hell Comes a Guest. The Cocos, a now vampiric couple, host their morning breakfasts, with guests aplenty including the leprechaun king. Later that evening he joins them in a card game and commiserates over his troubles. The Lady Coco full well knows how awful Post is. He's her father. They claim to resist by surviving, but he knows that way just leads to evil triumphing. But what did he sacrifice when his people were dying? The leprechaun admits there's truth to that and that he is the king. To pay his debt, he will go and kill the general. He introduces Bo and tells them how he sent him ahead to scout the way and in doing so learned their secret. What does blood taste like? And ashamedly, the Marquis admits, blood tastes like chocolate.
But now, live, no offense, we have an actual vampire to talk with us. Sir, is it true that blood tastes like chocolate? It's true, blood. But the thing is, it can taste different. There are those who grew up in the Midwest, dairy country. They taste like milk chocolate. The Irish, mint chocolate. Comedians who tell distasteful jokes, dark chocolate. Wow, and aside from the sunlight, what's the downside of being a vampire? Well, like anything, too much of something is never good. Too much sugary blood can rot your teeth. Yes, I can... Hey, you don't have any fangs. I never brush. I'm a monster. Don't look at me. Well, then how do you feed? Let's just say I never leave home without one of these and one of these. Delicious.
If they join the Leprechaun King in overthrowing Post, then perhaps they can redeem themselves. If they have to kill, why not do it to protect and save lives rather than hide their own miserable existence? The Marquis will have none of it. He orders the king to leave in the morning against his wife's wishes, but when he wakes, he finds only a letter. Dear Vlad, by the time you read this, I will be gone. She's gone to help kill her father. They are monsters, but they should never be bystanders. Alone, the Marquis' agony is worse than ever, and he finally makes up his mind to follow his wife in the hopes that he might win her back and maybe truly feel alive again. Chapter 5. A Devil's Advocate. Upon searching for his wife, the Marquis is caught and set to burn at the stake for being a vampire, but before he's set ablaze, a Quaker calls out for the crowd to stop. He was found at a cafe with all patrons dead, but the Quaker, a simple oat farmer, points out no one saw the actual murderers. There's a sure way to prove his innocence or guilt. Leave. If he's a vampire, then when they return, he'll be ashes thanks to the morning sun. If he's human, a mistake was made and they can release him. The townsfolk accept. Close to dawn, the Quaker returns with a key to free the Marquis. As a religious zealot, he sees Coco as a curse upon the sinners and debaucherous. It's true. Vampires hunt those on the fringe of society, but they also hunt those who know their secrets. He bites the Quaker and ties him up. The townsfolk return as the Quaker bursts into flame, and, believing him to be the Marquis, they believe their good work for the day is done.
Oh. His ashes were taken, mixed with milk, and had a sprinkling of blueberries laid on top. May he rest in porridge.
Chapter 6. The Land of Milk and Honeycomb. In Honeycomb Fortress, Franken-berry condemns the general for turning him into a monster. But where he sees horror, the general sees strength. This world must be remade to be worthy of breakfast. Dinner is for the rich, lunch, the lazy, and the less said about the brunch bunch, the better. But breakfast? Slave and soldier alike can enjoy that. A carriage arrives bearing the general's daughter. She comes with the crown of the four wisdoms. He now has everything he needs. She also presents him with the Leprechaun King, who explains how his brother assumed his identity and died at the hands of the general's soldiers. A good story, but the general doesn't believe any of it and has his daughter thrown in chains of pure silver. The king pulls a dagger but is thwarted by the toucan bird when he tries to stab the general. His spies informed him of the vampirism in his daughter's homeland and the return of the king, winner of 11 Oscars. He now has the crown and will create a world free of creatures like vampires and leprechauns. He has his daughter tied up and awaiting the dawn. Now, it's breakfast time.
It's breakfast time! No, that doesn't work for me.
Okay, I don't think that works as a badass catchphrase, but let's try some others. When we find one that pulls for you, we'll know it.
Okay, we'll just try a few. Would you like some soup? No. I sort my recycling. It's important, but no. I'd rather be watching the long box of the damned. Oh, that's just mean.
Try one more.
I can offer you store credit. That's it.
That's the one. Rushing to the fortress, the Marquis arrives in time to see his wife begin to burn. As the general has a morning meal with his accomplices, spies, and monsters, the king wants to strike him down, but Franken knows this is a test to see how far they can fall. The Marquis shields the Lady Coco's body from the sunlight at the cost of his own life. Ignoring the wizard's warning, the general places the crown on his head, but as he does so, Bowberry arrives and slices his throat open. As the general's compatriots move to strike them down, Franken and the Fruit Brute break their bonds and kill the remaining members of the Cabal. The Leprechaun King and Franken are able to get to the Marquis's wife in time to shield her after her husband expires. Leaving her father to rot in the sun, the motley band journeys home. Chapter 7. Breakfast for One. Brothers Franken and Bowberry reunite. It's explained that Bow was Franken's adopted brother, and that they believe the general had their father poisoned. At the docks, it's time for the Leprechaun King to return to his Emerald Isle and reclaim his lands. But the king's shame at failing to save his island from the general's invasion is too great. Eventually, he dons the crown and takes a long walk off a short pier. Ghost and homunculus, Bow and Franken knock on the door to their estate. Franken is afraid he will still be seen as a monster, but when the door opens, Bow is alive once more. That can only mean the Leprechaun King is dead and transferred his life essence into the blue ghost. Franken will leave the estate in his hands. They would never accept a monster as their master. Maybe not. He will always have a place in this home as Bow's brother. As for the Lady Coco, she's alone now. But she still maintains a breakfast every morning even when no one comes. For it's the memory of her beloved husband and friends that make each breakfast a balanced part of her morning.
And that's cereal! The tale of some milk-fed monsters and humans containing 8 essential vitamins and minerals. But what about the story? Was it just empty calories, or is there more to this story than just marshmallow fluff? I think I've run this breakfast metaphor into the ground. Or have I? Let's take a closer look at cereal.
First off, I have to say that artist Peter Snejberg really suited this book. He's channeling his inner Richard Corbin, a man known for monsters, gorgeous women, and the occasional muscle-bound hero. Given the overtop nature of older pulp serials which featured such things, it's no wonder Snejberg went this route. He does wonderful emoting through the faces and features simplistic, Hellboy-like special effects, especially on Bowberry. The tone of this book is difficult to describe. You might expect it to be over the top and funny based on the source material, but it's not. It's kind of melancholy. There's sexual blackmail, rampant warfare, murder, and even overeating. When I think of a serial, with an S, I think of the old Flash Gordon ones. A fun adventure ending in a cliffhanger. But in Serial, with a C, it's more a bunch of self-contained stories that converge on the finale. I liked all the characters, but can we just point out that the one obvious missing character was the Trix Rabbit? Where was he? It's a minor quibble on my part, I know, but there you go. I will credit that Mark Russell wrote the characters as deeply emotional beings. You can feel the shame dripping off the Marquis as he explains his vampiric existence. His bride is far braver than him, willing to become a vampire herself to protect him, and then willing to sacrifice their love to stop her father. The feeling of rejection is personified in Franken-berry, and the Leprechaun King is all about drive and determination, even though he knows it probably won't do a thing to help him in the end. Story-wise, while I felt the Quaker chapter didn't really add anything, it was a nice little tale of comeuppance for a bad man, and who doesn't love those? And while the Leprechaun King was such an important character, the one thing I felt was missing from the story was how he failed. We get an implication of arrogance that the magic of his homeland will protect his people, but we never see or get an explanation for the fall of that magic. We never see what actions the king took or didn't took that could have prevented this invasion and or saved his followers. It's just, I failed, let's go kill the general, for most of the story. I could have done with a little more explanation. On the whole, though, Serial is really fun with some very nice art, a book with moments of shock and gore and some surprisingly sympathetic monsters. All asking the same question, what does breakfast mean to you?
Well, I think it's obvious that this tale of chocolatey vampires didn't suck, and I feel lucky to have met the Leprechaun King. Keep pitching those low balls, guys. I'll hit every one. I give cereal 4 out of 5 stars. And knowing that there's only 1 serving per year in the short box, next time I'll ask you, do you think ding-dongs are like stuffed pancakes, and would that make it okay to eat a whole case of them for breakfast? Because lately All right! Yeesh! I'm more of a bacon and eggs man. Oh.
Hello, Mr. Ghoulie. Can I just say it's an honor to make my first post-living appearance on your show?
Hey, you're still the king, uh-huh.
Thank you. Now, you wanted to know how I failed to protect those gorgeous Emerald Isles from invasion.
Yes, I must admit I was curious.
Well, I didn't post enough guards around the farmlands. The general burned down the crops. No more wheat. No more barley.
Oh,
no
no.
more buckwheat. We had only one type of grain left, and it hurt our mouths to chew. That was our downfall.
You mean...
Yes. The serial killers left us with sore gums.
Congratulations. In 10 years of this show, that might be the worst end of episode pun ever.
I still like man outstanding in his own field.
Outstanding in his own field. Oh, yes, everyone, it's true. This is the 10th episode of the Short Box of the Inane. But why aren't we doing a 10th anniversary episode? Because the anniversaries don't work that way. Episode 1 is kind of like year 0, and you have to get to episode 2 for the first anniversary. So we technically have to go to the 11th episode to have a 10-year anniversary. Does that make sense? I was confused myself. Anyway, hey, there is actually an 11th episode already. It's on the Patreon. A true dead end of the internet, but I've got a lot of bonus episodes from my DVDs there, including a Short Box of the Inane no one's ever seen, because who bought my DVDs? I mean, they're not available anymore anyway, unless somebody wants to make me an offer. I'm drowning in them. Anyway, these days, I'm mostly eating bacon, eggs, waffles, pancakes. I don't eat too much cereal. The only cereal I really relate to anymore is Frosted Flakes, and these days the only Frosted Flakes are the ones falling out of my hair. What little there is left of it. Of course, I'll keep doing these. I'm just like Michael Keaton and Beetlejuice. Just keep slathering on the makeup. I can't tell how old I am. Oh, my Botox is ready. Bye for now, everyone.